we start our hike today, we're up into the Tonquin Valley. Does anybody know what Canadian animal this is?
Elk?
Deer?
It's actually a mountain caribou. And the way you can tell is because it has big hooves. It is two colors, it's brown and a bit lighter, and it has big antlers. And this guy also has a fluffy fur under its neck. And this one's a male, but so this has big antlers. So we're going to explore how mountain caribou live in a world of extremes. So first, caribou eat an extreme food. So they eat lichen, and lichen is a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. And eating a diet of algae and fungus would be like you eating a diet of lettuce and mushrooms. And even to a vegan, that's extreme. So I have some lichen here to show you. And this is what caribou eat. It's poorly nutritious, and it grows on high alpine ridges and in old growth pine forests. So on high alpine ridges is a place that's an extreme environment for caribou to live. And so to get up there, and the reason they live up there is because it keeps them safe from their main predator, which is wolves. And so wolves live in the river valleys down below where they prey on moose and deer. And caribou live high on the alpine ridges, like for instance up there without the trees, in the winter time where there's deep snow, and they use their big hooves to paw through the snow and to get at the lichen. They also move down in the summertime into the alpine valleys and where they have their babies and they calve in the springtime and the summertime. So caribou living on these high alpine ridges and it being really difficult to access up there, people have been encroaching on this habitat, and that's why part of the reason why they're in extreme demise. Their population numbers are declining. So does anybody have any change in their pockets?
Yeah, got a couple.
Yep.
And what have you got there?
I've got a nickel.
And what creature is on that?
Beaver's on the nickel, and I've got a quarter.
Okay, and what creature do you see on the quarter?
I'm guessing that would be the caribou.
That is the caribou,
yeah.
yes. Isn't that interesting? So caribou is been on the quarter since 1937. And it was put on there because it's a nationally ubiquitous animal. So it's found in all provinces and territories except in the Maritimes. And in the 1930s, the caribou numbers were around, just from historical oral histories and from documents from Parks Canada, the numbers were estimated to be sort of in the 300s in the mountain parks. In the 1990s, their numbers when they did a survey was about 100. And after that, in 2016, they did a survey and the numbers are around 30. So the numbers are in a big decline. And the three herds in Jasper, the Malene, the Brazeau, and the Tonquin herd, numbers are declining. Now Jasper National Park is taking some measures to conserve the caribou, and they have closed some of the trails into the Tonquin Valley so that you can't access, because the wolves will follow the trails after the people have gone in and used the trails. So they're reducing predation. So those are the three reasons why caribou are in are a creature living in a world of extremes. They eat an extremely poorly nutritious food. They live on extreme places, on high mountain ridges, and their populations are in extreme decline. Now people are taking measures to conserve the caribou, and extreme measures by some statements. They're spending lots of money by capturing caribou and putting them in maternity pens and breeding them so that they hopefully can one day release them into the wild. Now, what can you do to conserve caribou? Well, you could, when you drove here to Jasper today, did you happen to see some signs that said caribou crossing with a reduced speed limit? So you could follow those speed limits and slow down. And also, if you happen to like backcountry skiing in the winter, you could go to areas where there are where caribou are not living. So where there's no caribou habitat, you could still do your backcountry skiing, but do it in places where caribou are not. All right, so let's go on the trail and we'll look for these rare creatures as well as lichen.